My son stood in my small apartment, a place I had called home for 20 years, and looked at me as if I were a piece of furniture he was about to discard. He told me not to expect a single dime from his mother's $55 million will. He called me a relic, a ghost from a past his mother had thankfully escaped. He was so sure, so smug, standing there in his thousand shoes that he was about to become a king. But he forgot one simple truth about the past. It never truly dies. And at the will reading, when the lawyer read one single sentence from a dusty old document, my son would learn that the relic he dismissed already owned the entire kingdom. My name is Walter Hayes. I'm 75 years old. And this is my story. The story begins, as so many endings do, with a phone call. The phone vibrated against the polished wood of my coffee table, the name Marcus flashing on the screen. I hadn't seen his name light up my phone in 6 months. And foolishly, my heart still fluttered with hope. Maybe he was calling to check in, to ask how his old man was doing. I should have known better. I pressed the green icon. Hello, son. There was no warmth in his reply. No pause. No preamble. Just business. Mom's gone. Heart failure. This morning. The will readings on Tuesday. 10 a.m. Attorney Chin's office downtown. You should be there. Click. No, how are you holding up? No, I'm sorry. Just the cold, sharp edge of facts delivered like a blade. That was Marcus. Lena and I, my ex-wife, his mother, we didn't end in fire or fury. There were no slammed doors, no screaming matches in the rain. No, we ended like a book you close gently. Sad that the story was over, but grateful for the journey. But Marcus never saw it that way. When Lena's business empire took off, when the money started pouring in, Marcus chose a side. He chose the side with the bigger house, the fancier cars, the country club membership. To him, I was no longer his father. I was the cracked pavement his mother had built her skyscraper on, an inconvenient reminder of humble beginnings. The next day, there was a sharp knock on my door. Impatient, arrogant. I opened it to find Marcus and his wife Tiffany standing there. They brushed past me into the living room without so much as a greeting. Tiffany's eyes swept across my apartment, the old armchair, the jazz records, the faint scent of lemon polish I used every Saturday. Her nose wrinkled ever so slightly. Marcus crossed his arms. His voice was flat. We need to talk. I asked, about your mother? But I already knew. No. About the will. I'm here to manage your expectations, Walter. Walter. Not dad. Not even father. Walter. The word hit like a slap. And then he delivered the blow. Don't go in there tomorrow hoping for some reunion. Or a surprise inheritance. It's not going to happen. Mom made her empire long after she left you. You get nothing. Absolutely nothing. I want to be clear on that. Tiffany stepped closer, her hand cold on my arm. Her smile was sugar over poison. We just don't want you embarrassed. It's for the best, really. With $55 million. Marcus and I have big plans. It's our time now. That was the moment something inside me snapped. It wasn't about the money. It was about erasure. They weren't just taking an inheritance. They were rewriting history, erasing the life Lena and I had built together, the sacrifices that had given Marcus his start. But I didn't shout. I didn't beg. I simply looked at them, calm and steady. Thank you for letting me know. I opened the door. They walked out, convinced they'd won. But what they didn't realize was that they had just signed their own sentence. The law firm's conference room was designed for power. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Mahogany table. Silence thick enough to hear your own heartbeat. Marcus sat at the head of the table in a tailored suit, chest puffed like a conquering king. Tiffany at his side, dressed like she was attending a gala instead of her mother-in-law's will reading. They didn't look like grieving family. They looked like predators circling a prize. When Attorney Chin entered, they barely acknowledged him. Marcus even interrupted, impatient. Shall we begin? And the reading began. First came small bequests, books to old friends, porcelain birds to Lena's sister, a donation to a youth program Marcus once attended. With every line that wasn't the $55 million, Marcus's shoulders relaxed. Tiffany's nails drummed on the table in greedy anticipation. They thought they were waiting for crumbs before the feast. But the crumbs were the feast. Finally, Chin reached the end. He spoke the words they'd been waiting for. And the residual estate, comprising all remaining assets, liquid and invested, held within the Polaris Fund. Marcus leaned forward, eyes blazing. Tiffany's grip tightened on his hand. Current valuation of $55,312,457. Their faces glowed. This was it. The kingdom. But then, the word that shattered everything. Returned. Not bequeathed. Not inherited. Returned. Returned to its original and sole legal owner in accordance with the pre-existing and binding trust agreement notarized April 12, 1988. Silence. Marcus blinked, lost. Tiffany went pale. Chun removed his glasses, folded his hands, and looked at me. Mr. Walter Hayes, the Polaris Fund, all $55 million of it, is, and always has been yours. Congratulations. The room exploded. Marcus shot to his feet, fists slamming the table. Impossible. That was my mother's money. He's a relic. A nobody. How could it be his? Tiffany shrieked, accusing the lawyer of fraud, of forgery, of conspiracy. They raged, but Chun was calm, unmoved. Then he slid an old yellowed folder across the table. The 1988 trust agreement. Signed. Sealed. Backed by bank statements showing the original $50,000 came from my account. The seed money was mine. The fund had always been mine. The truth crashed into them like a tidal wave, leaving only silence in its wake. And finally, I spoke. You see a relic. An old man in a tweed jacket. But let me tell you the story you never knew. Back in 1988, your mother and I were a team. I was an analyst at a small firm, sifting through mountains of paper no one else wanted. And one night, I found something. A little company in California. A couple of kids in a garage building computers for every home. Everyone thought it was a joke. I didn't. I bet everything. $50,000. Our life savings. But it was risky. My side venture was in debt. If it failed, creditors could seize everything. So we created a trust in your mother's name. A firewall. She managed it. I funded it. And we signed a notarized agreement that one day, it would return to me. That was the Polaris Fund. Your mother grew it brilliantly. She nurtured it, expanded it, and when our marriage ended, we never broke that pact. Because some promises are bigger than marriage. So no, Marcus. She didn't give me her money. She simply returned mine. Marcus sat frozen, face white, disbelief etched into every line. Tiffany stared at the documents like they'd betrayed her personally. Their rage turned to begging. Dad, Marcus said, the first time he'd called me that in years. His voice cracked with false emotion. We've made mistakes, but you can't keep all of it. We're your family. Family. Funny word, coming from someone who had erased me long ago. I thought of every ignored call, every cold dismissal, every time I was treated like a relic. And for the first time in decades, I felt peace. So here I sit today, telling you this story not because of the $55 million, but because of what it means. Revenge isn't always loud. It doesn't always come with shouting or fists or fireworks. Sometimes, the sweetest revenge is silence. A signature on a page. A truth preserved for decades. Sometimes, the best revenge is simply living long enough to watch arrogance destroy itself. And my son? He called me a relic. But in the end, it was the relic who owned the kingdom.